Hello, hello. Welcome back to episode number 19 of the Leading Yourself podcast. Yes, 3 weeks on a row of new episodes. And today is a very special one because for the first time, I have a special guest in this podcast. And it couldn't be anybody else but my little brother, Alejandro. He and I had a very informal chat about our experience working from home for the last 2 weeks. Because of the current coronavirus and all the social distancing measures, we both have been working from home for 2 weeks on a row, which is not typically how we do. We both work for big organizations and we are used to go to the office every day, maybe work from home once a week at the most. So in this episode, we talk about what we've learned after these 2 weeks and share some tips to stay productive, stay focused, but also find work-life balance. So check it out. Let's dig into today's episode. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. The advantage of working from home a day a week or once in a while, it is very different when you have to work every day from home and away from your coworkers and trying to get all the things done remotely. So in today's episode, my little brother is joining us to talk about this topic. How can we maximize our time working from home? How can we stay productive and get things done while working remotely? So, hi, Alejandro.
Hi, Carolina. How are you? Just to start, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm your brother. You already said that, but as you said, I have 2 weeks already in quarantine working from home. I work in Telefonica, which is a telecom company here in Spain that has presence in UK, Spain, Germany, and Latin America. And yeah, we do have also one day a week of work that we can work at home. But right now we have 2 weeks already working every day from home, which is a very drastic change from the way we were working before. And just to let it also in my introduction, I also create online content as you. But it's in Spanish. It's mainly in Spanish, and then I haven't created anything in English up until now that we're actually recording this podcast that has been in our mind for so long, and we hadn't established any date or we didn't do it before, and we're doing it right now thanks to the coronavirus, I think.
I know, isn't it amazing? Like we've been talking about doing a podcast together for so long and we've never actually get to do it. And now thanks to the coronavirus and the fact that we are working from home and staying home and practicing social distancing that we're able to get to do this. So I think, as I said in my previous episode, I think there's a lot of things that we can control, but we should focus on the things that we can control. And I mentioned our attitude and our perspective are two things that we always get to choose. And I think we always need to look at the bright side of things, right? There's always a bright side on every situation, no matter how challenging it is. And talking about challenges, working from home, as we were saying, on an ongoing basis, it is challenging when you're not used to it. Um, so, what are some of the things that have helped you in this last 2 weeks to be able to work from home and be able to, still get in contact with your colleagues and get things done in a collaborative way? Because I'm sure that in your job you're not doing everything by yourself, but you're interacting with others, and that's where the challenge or main challenge comes in. So, what are some of the tips that you can share with us?
Yeah, so basically, these are not going to be tips right now, but just basically to put some context here. Since I work in a telecom company, which I don't know if every telecom company works the same way, but in this case, Telefonica has been doing a lot of work establishing digital tools for the teams. So I think that the company was in a better shape right now to this, we can call it a bit of crisis or situation, and we do have the tools. So first of all, one of the, even though we at a personal level we do have what you just said in your last episode and right now, that nothing is black or white, so you have perspective and attitude, but that's at a personal level. But at a professional level, we do have tools. So it's like two different things that I wanted to talk. And so now going to the tips, I think that you actually nailed it. I think that's the phrase in your blog post, because you had a lot of things that I actually do, not all of them, but a lot of them I do, and I think I do encourage people to do also. So like establishing a routine. I mean, you already have a routine. Before everything happened, you had a routine. So even though the routine is going to change because of the circumstances, you have to recreate a routine so you can have focus on the things that you're doing. It's like if you slept every day at some time, maybe that time it's not going to change, and you shouldn't change your wake up time, because when this is over, you're going to wake up at the same time you were waking up before. So you shouldn't change that much your routine. And that's one of the things that I had here that you already said, you wrote in your article. And I think it's one of the most important. Routines are important, and habits are the
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that has been very helpful is to maintain my same schedule as much as possible, right? So before all this happened, I was waking up um, actually at 4:30 to do my morning routine. Now I'm waking up a little bit later, but not too much later. So I still wake up early, and I could use the current situation as an excuse to sleeping. But I think that keeping my routine in terms of my schedules of waking up early before my kids wake up so I can get to do the things that I was doing before all this happened has been important. And also, we try to keep our schedules when it comes to meals, for example, or our work schedule as much as possible. I have to say, when you have kids at home, because schools are also closed, is a little bit more challenging, because they also demand your attention. So a lot of times you need to adjust your schedule a little bit. But as much as you keep the routine and do the same things that you were doing before, I think that really helps to stay focused, to be productive, but also to stay sane, right? Because
Exactly.
I think the other risk that we run into is that our life becomes our work, because we don't have anything else to do, so we just work more. And we need to define the beginning and the end of our work schedule and the rest of our life, even though we're just at home all the time.
Yeah, and not only in the schedule itself, but you also had in the article, and which something that I do a lot, it's like I separate the spaces. When I'm at home and I'm in my desk, I'm working. But outside of my desk, I'm in my home. So I'm doing something that I would do normally in my home. It's not like I have to respect not only the time, the schedule itself, but also respect the spaces and actually define like this is my workspace, and I'm not gonna work at my room because that's gonna trigger things in my mind that I would maybe would affect my sleep habits, or maybe would affect my daily mental. I want to call it mental health, but I don't know if
Yeah.
you think the same.
Yeah, I fully agree. On week one, I established my workspace at the kitchen table. And that was a mistake because, I was working and then it was lunchtime and I just like push my laptop to a side and then have lunch. And then my son will do homeworks and I will push my laptop to do homeworks with him and then pull my laptop again. And I wasn't leaving that table during the day. And I found myself that it was chaotic, that I was not as productive, that I did not really had breaks, and that's another thing that we'll talk about. Um, and I did not have a clear definition of what was work versus what wasn't work. And in week two, what I did is I have a study room. So I set up that to be my working space. And when I'm out of that space, as you said, I'm not working. But when I'm in that space, it's work. And
Yes.
I can separate the two.
Yeah, and it's like you change mindset depending on the space that you are. So if you define the space where you're gonna work, I think that's a very important and key part of maintaining the focus on something. And if you're doing it in the kitchen, of course you're like mixing things up. And even if you do it in your room, you might not be able to sleep later because your mind adequates that you're thinking of work in the room. So that just something to deal with. And I think it's better to just separate as you did in the first week. I didn't do it as one of the first things, and it did mixed up some of my schedules of eating and my schedule of doing exercise, and I surely recognized that that was a problem, and actually changed that. And now I have my space to work, my space to rest, my space to eat. And I think that's healthy.
Yeah, I fully agree. The other thing that I talked in my article about was taking breaks throughout the day, because I think that, when we are in the office, we're constantly changing environments. You stand up from your desk and you go to talk to someone, or you go to the restroom, or you go to fill up your water bottle, or you go to a meeting room. But when you're home, and if you are in your defined space, then you're stuck in that space. And I think, from a focus standpoint, I did an episode where I talk about how to stay focused and get things done, and I talk about the span of attention. And we all have different spans of attention, but the thing is that in order to maximize our productivity and in order to get things done, especially in the environment in which we are right now and with everything going on around us, we need to take more frequent breaks. And when I talk about breaks, for me, a break can be 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be long breaks, but just change the
Exactly.
scenery. Go get some water, go walk around the block if you're able to. I know here in the United States, you can go outside and take a walk. I know in some countries that cannot be done, because of
Yeah,
the social distancing
here in
rules.
Madrid is not possible right now. Yes, and here in Spain, and I don't know if your audience shares this, but because it's like a cultural thing, but here it's very typical or cultural that you go like at the mid of the morning, you go and take a coffee with someone or just yourself. But that's like a cultural thing. So you actually get up your chair, you go downstairs, You go to the coffee shop, you get a coffee, relax a bit, and then go again and work. So it actually helps a lot. It clears your mind. It actually makes you more productive. Like you said, the span of time that you have for being productive in one at a time, it's limited. You cannot be 24 hours the same at the same productivity level. So yeah, taking breaks is something that I'm not doing as often as I did when I was going to work, but I try to do it,
Let me ask
and
you
I try to
something.
remember myself.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
You talked about technology, and I fully agree. We need now more than ever leverage technology to stay connected, to get things done. You now mentioned the coffee breaks, and I know in Spain it's very much part of the culture to go with someone. Um, have you tried to do like Skype or Zoom video calls with people for a coffee break or a happy hour? I know we did one this Friday at the office. We all got on a Zoom call and did a happy hour, a virtual happy hour. But do you guys do that like at coffee time or lunch or after work?
No, not yet. We haven't done that, and I think it's also a cultural thing. I don't know if it's something that some other group is doing, but at least in my in the team that I'm part of, we're not doing that virtual like sharing. But I do that with friends, and it actually helps. So just gathering and having like a small talk and grabbing something and just a video call or something actually helps a lot. And right now I'm in a long distance relationship, so I do it also. So it's like it's part of my routine, if you want to call it that. I have like a video call or share space and time, but in a virtual space with someone else, and it actually helps.
Yeah. Fully. Switching a little bit, I there was one tip that I share, and I don't know if you do something similar to this, but one thing that I do even before all this, but now it's even more helpful. The first thing that I do in the morning when I sit at my desk is that I write down the three things that I want to accomplish on that day, like setting my priorities. And, I write them down on a post-it note, and I have that post-it note in front of me. So it's a reminder throughout the day because while I don't have as many interruptions as I did in the office, um, because of the nature of what I'm working on, it can get a little bit chaotic and go in any direction during the day. And at the end of the day, I turn down my computer and I haven't accomplished anything. Do you do anything like that?
Yes, I actually do it, but for a week, not a daily list of things that I have to do, but a weekly list of objectives or things that I want to do from Monday to Friday. That list normally mutates during the week because of things that pop up in between the days. But yeah, I do it a weekly list of things that I have to do, and it helps me a lot to stay focused on those things that are the important things of the week. um and I just wanted to add something about the technology part. And it's not just that if the company gives me the technology to be connected with people, we're already connected with people. And we're actually in a better position right now because we're used to uh, like WhatsApp, we're used to Facebook, we're used to Instagram, which are like connectivity technologies, we can call them platforms. And even though some people don't know how to use Zoom, or Slack or Microsoft Teams, we in Telefonica have Microsoft Teams and all the Office 365 suite, and there's a lot of options. I think that Zoom has been very named in the news in the United States. And even though that the company doesn't give you those tools, though they are free versions, and you can still use them. And if you don't know how to use them, we actually are in that time of life that we have YouTube and free tutorials and so much blog posts that teach you. So we're in a very good position to translate the work that can be translated to digital. We actually are in a very good position right now, because I think that our parents wouldn't be as in a very good situation if this would happen in the time when they were working.
I fully agree. And I also think that this is a great opportunity also to learn new skills, to learn new tools.
Exactly.
A lot of these tools are free, or if they were not free now, are free because of the situation. A lot of companies are giving out tools for free. But is that besides the use of technology, is an opportunity to learn a new skill and to learn something
Exactly.
new and improve ourselves, right? So at the end, and also I think it's an opportunity as a company, as a team, to become more productive. And when you are in a situation where you're forced to do something, I think you get more creative as well. And we will find new
Totally agree.
ways of doing the work that is taking less time, that is more efficient, that is more effective, and moving more into the digital way of working that we've been talking about for so long, but not everyone is moving as quickly in that direction. And this might be the catalyst to move faster into that direction and move more of the work that we do on a daily basis into a digital way of working.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that the world was going into a more digital way of working, but it was in a different pace. And I think that after that, because of this, we are just accelerating a lot of that work towards that goal of digital working. And I think that even not just the digital working part, but the economy part, the things that the governments are gonna have to think about to solve these kind of issues, because people are losing their jobs, or people are having a temporary I don't know how you call it in English, but they're just not going to work in for a temporal time frame.
Like a temporary layoff. Yes, agree.
Yeah, temporary layoff. And I think it's like a big turnaround of things. Like, if you think you were doing things in a good way, in a right way, now we're shifting the game, and now you have to think in more innovative things, and change the chip, and start thinking differently. So I think that it's a very good opportunity for many people. And even though there's a component here, and as you start the podcast, you said that perspective and attitude. And if you have a negative perspective or a negative attitude right now, you're surely not going to have a good time, because it's going to be it's tough right now, because of big change, and every change is tough at start. And but if you actually add to that you have a negative attitude or perspective, it's going to be tougher. So it's as big as an opportunity and as big as a challenge. It's both at the same time, not just for you, but for the company, for the government, and for anyone that you know or you don't know, for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree. I think that we need to focus on those things, right? On the opportunities that this situation is bringing us from a work standpoint. Also, I, like you, I work in a company that has a lot of flexibility, and flexible work schedules is part of our culture. So we were in a good place. I can't imagine if this would have happened 5 or 10 years ago. It wouldn't have been possible for people to work from home, but today it is. But the reality is that not all companies have those um, telecommuting programs or working from home programs, and this might be also a detonator for them to think about it, and now they need to find the solution, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities in the middle of this challenging times. And also personally, right, you're saving your commute time, like you're getting or gaining time in your day that you can use for things that are important to you, whether it's spending quality time with your family, whether it's learning a new skill, focusing on your personal growth, like, you know, spring cleaning. I don't know, whatever that is.
No, and yeah, and there's something important right now that you have more time, and one of the things that I think it's very important is self-knowledge, and even though many of the things that we can talk about might work for somebody and for some and not for everybody, which is something that I think your audience would be very they already know about this. You talk about this. We are all different. We're all unique. So it things might work for somebody, things might not work for somebody else. But here the key point is you have the time, you have more time to test things and to know you better, and knowing you better you get to have better decision making process, like you learning new skills. At least you can try to learn new skills. You don't know if that skill's gonna be something that you like or not. You can test it right now. You have time for doing it, and you can test other things like, I don't know, yoga or some kind of exercise you never had time to test or something like that. But I mean, it has an exploration. It could also be an exploration opportunity for self-knowledge.
Agree. And now that you talk about exercise, I think another important component of being home and working from home is taking care of yourself. I think that is important anytime, but more important now because, we're not moving as much as we were, even if it's just walking to work or from the car to the office and back. So being able to focus also on yourself and being healthy. And for me, that has different aspects, right? Is when I talk about being healthy, I'm talking about physical health, mental health, and emotional health, and things like eating healthy and moving your body and drinking enough water and having a good night's sleep and being able to self reflect and meditate or pray, depending on what your faith is, and spending quality time with your loved ones, and all the things that are going to bring you um, that sense of well being in these challenging times.
Yeah, I think that health in itself, every component, as you just said, it's important. Exercise is one. I do not, I'm going to talk about my routine. I don't have a 30 minutes, 1 hour exercise routine. I don't do that. I work differently. I cannot focus myself 30 minutes doing exercise. That's not my, if you want to call it, style. What I do, and if someone here wants to test it or to see if it works for them too, is that when I have an Apple Watch, and when the Apple Watch tells me to get up, I actually get up, and I use that trigger to do 10 squats or 10 push-ups or something, but it's very little. It's like I don't need to put too much time on it at each time. So it helps me a lot to just do some exercise. It's not a big deal of exercise. And if I have, like, I'm lazy at that moment, doesn't matter. It's just 10 squats. So it's very easy for me to just do them and get going and engage again with
Yeah,
work.
what you just described is I did a blog post on book recommendations, and one book that I very, very highly recommend is Atomic Habits from James Clear. And he talks about
Yeah.
and describes how to build habits. And you're basically putting in practice what he teaches in the book of triggers and stacking habits and all those things that he talks in the book. So I love it. For me, as you know, I
Yeah.
do have a routine. Otherwise, I won't be able to do it. Um, but you need to find what works for you and do what you can with what you have and where you are.
Exactly. And I actually took the idea from Atomic Habits. I do love also that book. I think it was the best book for me in that I read in 2019. So yeah, I took the idea from there, and I think that there's a lot of good ideas in that book. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Well, Alejandro, I am planning to, in future episodes, to maybe steal one of your concepts. I know that you have a virtual book club that you do in YouTube, in your YouTube channel. And those who speak Spanish, I really recommend it because it's awesome. And, I started this podcast because you inspire me. I was thinking about it, but you were faster than me in starting one. And one of the things that I've been talking about with some friends is I want to invite some friends to this podcast and do a live book club and debrief about what we learned about a specific book. And Atomic Habits is one that is on top of my list because, like you, this was one of the best books that I read in 2019. It really, I'm very keen in habits. I talk about habits all the time. And as I was reading the book, a lot of those things resonated with me because without knowing the theory behind it, I was already doing. But there were a lot of things that I hadn't done before that I have implemented now and have made a huge difference in establishing routines and habits in my day to day. So I will be calling you back to be here in the podcast again when we do that book club on atomic habits.
Great, I would love that, and thank you very much for taking me as inspiration. I have left my podcast in like in the shadows right now. I haven't been recording for my podcast, but I'm trying to keep steady in my YouTube channel with the book that I'm reading. It's actually like a different type of book club since I'm I'm reading each chapter and I'm doing like an episode per chapter, which is not like a normal book club that you read the book and then you talk about the whole book. But it's like I'm trying like a different concept. I don't know which concept you're gonna try. I think that's gonna be more a normal concept, but yeah, I'm trying to be more disciplined about that, and that's one of my main objectives for this year.
Awesome. 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 So, as we wrap things up for today, since we're talking about books and we're talking about having some extra time and we talk about investing that time in our personal growth, do you have any book recommendations that someone can pick and read and focus on their personal growth while we are practicing social distancing?
Yeah, I have a few that I always recommend. Those are the seven habits. I know the seven habits, yeah, of effective people. I know the titles in Spanish, so I'm like a bit of translating here. If you
Yeah,
can help
Seven
me, that will
Habits
be
of
from
Highly
Stephen
Effective
Covey.
People. My favorite book of
Okay,
all times.
yeah, that actually I read it because of you. You bought it to me, and it was the Sean Covey version, the one that
The Sun
um
did for teens,
her
right?
son
Yeah.
wrote. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was for teens, but I love that book, and it's great. And then I have Start with Why from Simon Sinek. I think it's a great book for personal growth. And then I have John Maxwell. John Maxwell have a lot of books, but two of them are the 15 Laws of Growth and 5 Level Leadership. Though the both are great books. I don't know if I'm translating
Yeah, that
correctly the names because I know them in
yeah, you're
Spanish.
doing great.
Okay, and then and the last book from the main list that I have is Atomic Habits. It's not because it's the the last. I would put it in second place, but it's one of the best books I've read. So Atomic Habits, 5 Level Leadership, 15 Laws of Growth, 7 Habits, and Start with Why. Those would be my best of the best personal development books. And I'm gonna read this year. I'm gonna try to read um, Finite and Infinite Games from Simon Sinek. It's a book that it's calling me, and I haven't read it
I
yet.
haven't read it either. So thanks for the recommendation. All the other books I have read and I have really enjoyed. They are amazing books and they are great for personal growth and personal development. So if anyone is looking for recommendations, there you go. And in my website, I also posted an article. I think it was last week with all my book recommendations for personal, career, and leadership development. So if you're looking for a book recommendation, go check them out. And with that, thank you very much, Alejandro, for joining for this informal discussion, really improvised. I really, really enjoyed talking to you as always. And I am so grateful that finally we got to do this because we've been talking about this for months and we haven't give ourselves the time to really do it. So really, really appreciate you being in the podcast. And I can't wait for you to come back again for talking about another topic.
Great. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm very, very happy to be here today. And well, I'll be waiting for the invitation next time, and hopefully it's gonna be about Atomic Habits, my favorite book from 2019.
Yeah, you bet it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
And with that, as always, if you like today's episode, if you found these tips helpful, I will ask you to do two things. One, go to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. And number two, please share this episode with someone that you think can benefit from today's content. And with that, I hope you have an amazing and productive day. And I'll talk to you again on another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.